Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Trade Informed podcast. Today, I'm with Alex Kolpokchi, who is the co-founder and CEO of Base Markets, which is a new broker to the market. So, Alex, thanks very much for joining me. To kick things off, just for people who are watching who don't know you, can you kind of give a bit of background on yourself and how you ended up founding the company?
Yeah, thanks for having me, David. Been watching your podcasts, reading your stuff for a long time, so real pleasure to be here finally. I guess how it all started was 2013, fresh out of uni, applied for a bunch of jobs. IG said they want to come speak to me have an interview to hire me. Googled what IG was again before going there. Applied to a bunch of places, started at IG in support, so client services, clients calling with everything from I forgot my password to actually placing trades over the phone. So that was a really good foundation. You kind of get a broad spectrum of experience at IG. Did that for 3 years. Then it so happened that I was sort of the only Russian speaker at IG in a client-facing role, and they made me do business development for their Russian Eastern European market. Then after 7 years or so at IG, left, moved to Dubai. Followed another guest of yours, who I guess was here recently, Tarek, to go set up the Pepperstone office there. And we went through the whole licensing, DFSA process. Then eventually Tarek left, moved on to Capital. I inherited the Pepperstone Middle East office, stayed at Pepperstone for, I think also 6-7 years, thereabouts. And then left a year and a half ago. Was approached by someone who had a fund algorithm. They didn't want to rely on brokers anymore. They wanted their own direct access, so helped them with the whole setup there, server, bridge, LP relationships, and eventually sort of said to them, look, you have this whole infrastructure set up, but you're one and only client. Let's sort of expand beyond that. And that's sort of what gave birth to Base Markets.
Nice. And, we met in Cyprus like month or two ago, and you were talking about how part of the reason for you wanting to start the business is almost like you're fed up with different parts of the industry. So can you talk about that and how you sort of think that will inform your branding and what you want to give to customers?
Yeah, I think maybe because of my time at IG and I guess at Pepperstone to an extent, they're all fairly reputable big brands and try to do things the right way. Similar with the fund that I helped, who are now investing and financing Base Markets, kind of their approach is also, let's just do it the slow and steady, the right way. So that's our approach going in, but sort of looking around us at the industry. And that's sort of why we met in Cyprus, because I think our views align on a lot of these things. But this industry has become a bit of a joke at times.
Yeah.
Lamborghinis, raffles, bonuses, like, what are we doing here? This is so far from the financial industry, and it's closer to the casino. And I think maybe it's time someone sort of came and kind of said the thing that no one says out loud, and to an extent called out the industry. I mean, you've been doing that for some time. So that's sort of what we're trying to build, to kind of convey that credibility that we are different. And I don't know, I hope not to be proven wrong, because some of the conversations I'm having with clients recently, clients said, I'm going to deposit $1,000, but I want $1,000 bonus. And we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And I guess there's two ways about this, right? He deposits $1,000, you give him $1,000. If you hedge his trades, then on your LP account, you'd have lost $2,000. Yeah. But the client only sent you one, so you're at a loss. And I tried to explain it to him. I said, the only way this makes any sense for the broker is if they don't hedge your positions. And then if you are right and you make money, then again the broker loses. So the only way is to be book, not hedge you, and make sure you lose.
Yeah.
The client's like, yeah, look, I don't care, I just want my bonus. I was like, okay, look, we're not the right broker for you. Let's just agree to disagree on this. So we're trying to build something that's sort of different, that's sort of right. And I think at times we might be a bit audacious, I suppose, and kind of call out bad behavior in the industry. But perhaps it's time.
But do you think, like, that's actually a good point, right? Which is when you see this stuff, one way of looking at it is obviously, okay, this is negative. It's sort of turning it into a casino, whatever you want to call it. But another way of looking at it is maybe they're doing it because it works and people want it. So like, I mean, how do you deal with that fact, right? Like if maybe that is just what people want. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. And I guess we're not going to be the right broker for everyone. If
Yeah.
someone wants to potentially win a Lamborghini in a raffle, that's not going to be us. If someone wants a bonus, there's plenty of them out there. But that's sort of not our approach or not what we want to build. So we hope to attract the clients who actually want to trade rather than punt or however you want to call it, who just want good spreads, low commission, good trading conditions. And I think the other thing we need to do is sort of be, I guess, commercially flexible.
Yeah.
You sort of see this with a lot of other brokers where, this is what we offer, take it or leave it. In a way, that's also what gave birth to base markets, because when I was speaking to the fund who's now backing us, they wanted fixed spreads on FX, and it can be done, but everyone's like, look, it takes work. We have to set up a server, change some settings. We're not going to do it.
Yeah.
So we kind of want to maintain that approach. One, be, I guess, cost effective, not to overcharge clients, to be credible and honest in our approach and not do this whole Lamborghini fireworks nonsense, but to also stay commercially hungry, where clients come with some sort of request that's outside your typical, that we try and accommodate that.
And do you think that sort of client persona exists? I mean, for example, I would say, for example, the people that you've set up the company with are probably in some way, well, there's an argument that they might be a bad client because they're more demanding and difficult to deal with, but equally they're probably a good one because there's actually longevity to them. If they're making money, they're profitable, they're more serious and know what they're doing, hopefully they'll be with you for the long term, rather than the bonus guy who's going to put in his money, probably blow his account, and then leave you forever. Like, I don't know. I mean, obviously you only launched, I think, properly a week ago, something like that. I mean, do you see early signs that there is sort of demand, or have you seen things in the run up to launch where it's like, oh yeah, there is actually appetite for kind of, let's say, a higher, I don't know, more like a, more respectable or whatever you want to call it type of brand?
Yeah, I think so. This sort of commercial flexibility that we talk about and kind of the bespoke offering, I imagine that's going to be far and few between, and probably for your bigger clients where whatever the market currently offers doesn't fit their needs, and because of their size or the way they trade. So I imagine that's probably going to be a small number of clients, but the amount that they trade would probably be on the bigger side. But also kind of looking at your average client, I suppose, the deposit bonus clients and so forth. That's not for us, but at the same time, someone has to pay for that Lamborghini, right? So most brokers will charge, $7 commission per FX slot, and then maybe give you a rebate of $3 and pat themselves on the back.
Yeah.
And we've sort of cut to the chase, and off the bat, you're getting $4 commission on FX. And at the same time, what we are trying to build is to sort of be credible. So I think even the mass of clients, or the smaller clients who do not want something bespoke or something special built, they'd still probably like to trade with a broker who charges them less money and is credible in the way they do their business.
Yeah. How actually price sensitive do you think people are at the moment? Because I think it's, I saw something interesting. I think it was someone at CMC Markets talking about how spreads is kind of like one factor for people, but increasingly they're realizing that, if you trade with, let's say, plus 500, and I'm not putting shade on them because I think this is their kind of modus operandi and they're open about it, but like, you're just going to get what you get. You're never really going to be able to talk to anyone. If something goes wrong, it's kind of like, maybe you can email
it is what
them
it is,
or whatever. And like, I don't think they shy away from that. It's just like very automated, very digital, non-personal kind of thing. But equally, I think from what you've said, it's possible that there's like this higher value type of persona that actually wants to be able to like pick up the phone, speak to someone. So yeah, I suppose my question is like, to what extent do you think pricing matters, but also to what do you see any sort of demand for like better kind of customer service, the ability to actually speak to someone, maybe from people who are like, I'm fed up with dealing with a sort of faceless company kind of thing?
Yeah, I guess on the pricing, and maybe in a way it's a similar sort of mindset that we're trying to go against in a way, as with the bonuses. So I think pricing probably matters more on the way in. So when you're trying to win a client, I guess some would compare spreads and try and do that comparison. But in my experience, and we've done this before, not at Base, but at other companies, where whatever your spread was, you cut it by, I don't know, let's say 20%. So you're now making 20% less, but you hope that the uplift in volume traded is going to compensate the 20% and more.
Yeah.
And in reality, you cut your spreads by 20% and the volume stays the same, and no one really cared.
Yeah.
And I guess where it does matter is sort of at the beginning of the journey when you're trying to win clients over, and you'll see that oftentimes, like the whole industry. You go on anyone's website, spreads from 0.0 or whatever that means, right? So you try to attract clients with a lower spread, and I think therein also our industry probably could do with a bit more transparency. Because oftentimes you'll see, whatever, 0.1 spread on something, and you'll go on the platform and it's actually 0.1 as advertised.
Yeah.
And you go to trade one lot and that might go through, but anything above one lot, it will go through the order book depth and you get slipped and you're like, yeah, I mean, I guess I did get 0.1 spread, but in what size?
Yes.
So it really becomes a marketing gimmick to sort of say, oh, look, we have the tightest spread, but it's not good in any size. And if anyone traded in any meaningful volume, they'd get slipped and you'd sort of make that tight spread back elsewhere. Yeah. So I think it matters more as attracting clients rather than actually when clients go and trade. And what was your second question?
I suppose it's on like whether you see customer service as being a thing, right? Because I think there's two ways of looking at that. You could look at like the really big players who actually are just doing. If you took say IG for example at the moment, I think there's this. It seems like there's a very big push to actually move away from having account managers and make things very automated and not really have a very hands-on approach. And then you could say look at that and go, well, they're actually still doing pretty well. But equally, at the same time, you'll speak to other people, and they'll go, well, what higher net worths and people who are actually, you could say, better customers want is to be able to know, okay, I can pick up the phone and call this person or message them or just have a more kind of personal experience with the broker. So I don't know if you like fall into one camp or you think that actually having the sort of person-to-person contact is a useful thing, or you're just like, nah, it's fine, do digital.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the sort of nature of the question, because there's things where if we sort of look at ourselves in our everyday life, like you don't want to call someone and speak to them, like, I don't know, ordering pizza, Uber, you just do it online and you kind of shy away from that human interaction. And I guess to that extent, a good broker needs to have some sort of automation. I don't know, funding, withdrawals. Like I don't want to have to call you every time I fund or withdraw. Like that's just painful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I have some intricate, nuanced problem where I had this trade, then this happened, like I have to explain the whole story and context, how we got here. I don't want to speak to a AI chatbot. Like, you're just like connect to agent right away. I don't want to deal with this. So I think it's a matter of having the right balance. So hopefully having the right, I don't know, platform and function there eliminates the bulk of the mundane tasks, but then definitely you need a personable team that's not just someone junior who you kind of almost have to coach as you explain your question to them, but that they have that experience to resolve your issue ideally in one contact attempt, so you don't have to keep calling back. So definitely, I guess, leaning more towards the human element rather than all in on AI chatbots.
Yeah. And I mean, going through the process of building the company, I mean, I think you've been doing it for about 12 months now, right? Until actually going live. And something, I have accounts with like a lot of different companies just to test features and stuff like that. And there is a level of like, sometimes I look at the industry, I'm like, how are there so many companies? Because there's the end product in a lot of cases just looks and feels so similar, right? You have MT5, and then you got probably one back office provider. And actually those two things just kind of can end up being very, very similar at each company that you go to. And I think it's almost like the difference is in these random small details, like having, I don't know, more payments options or having random other analytical features, or just making sure everything functions very smoothly. So this is a long-winded way of asking, like, in the process of building the company and the sort of technology behind it and stuff, have you realized, okay, we actually need to have this product or this feature to really stand out in what is basically a very I would say, overbroked market, right? There's so many companies.
Yeah, definitely. And it's you start and you're like, there's so much to do from, I don't know, servers, bridges, LPs, client, CRM, the CRM your sales team uses. So there's a lot to build. And I think you do find yourself that you kind of gravitate to, I don't know, everyone has MT5, right? Like it's sort of the default way of doing it. I think our journey, in a way, almost came about organically because I was helping the fund that's now supporting us with their setup, their server, bridge, liquidity providers, and that really helped us because of the fund and their size and how much they trade. We have a pretty good infrastructural setup in terms of dealing and really good LPs and good relationships with them. And we do a lot of volume with them. So on the dealing side, I think we're quite well positioned. Um, and we did that maybe in the first 6 or so months of this journey, and then we got a CRM, client portal, website, payments, to sort of build it out from the fund to the more retail, what will become base markets. And they're definitely, I think it's what, MT5, everyone, FXBO, everyone, and it's sort of all pretty similar. We soft launched at the start of the year, and we're quite lucky because we have some good trusting relationships with some clients. And we kind of said to them, look, I mean, it's live. You could open an account, fund, and trade, but it's not hard launched. We haven't announced it. It's sort of not ready yet. But we'd love for you to come and give your feedback. And we're lucky enough that a lot of our clients did do that, and we sort of improved a lot of things. We even had to entirely change the client portal that we use because that was just not good enough, I suppose, for what we were after. And we kind of spent the last 6 months really fine-tuning that and listening to the few clients that we had, to their feedback. And that's why the hard launch was sort of 6 months after that.
Nice. So who are your clients so far, can you say? Is that people that you're already kind of familiar with and that kind of thing? Or like
Yeah, I think the first sort of cohort of clients was clients that I was familiar with. I've hired some of the sales guys and the BDMs, premium client managers, and they sort of came with their clients, and not with all of their clients, because even we have conversations with them. They're like, look, I'm trading at broker X. I know you, I love you, great guy, I'll have a beer with you, but like you got to earn your stripes first, right?
yeah.
So we moved some clients over that we could. Some clients said, I'll join you when you're there. But I think what also helped in moving the initial clients, and what's even helping now in conversations with the remaining clients, is the message that we stand for.
Yeah.
It's like, look, commission's cheaper. We're not going to fuck you around. It's a solid offering. Wouldn't you want to try this out? And very few clients can sort of argue with that. I think the no Lamborghini message resonates with some people.
Yeah, no, definitely. And in terms of, I mean, sort of where you're targeting and licensing stuff, right? You're obviously based in Dubai. I think most of your team is based there. Are you kind of confined to that region or that market, or do you have plans to expand and things like that?
Yeah, so at the moment, our only license is Mauritius, and I guess it's a good place to start. We definitely have plans to expand our licenses. So some of the team, myself, are in Dubai, but we're actually quite all over the world. We have someone in New Zealand, Australia, Dubai, Cyprus, London. So we're not many people, but we're quite well geographically covered, I suppose. Next for us is to get a UAE license. Used to be called ESCA, now CMA. I would imagine that we should hopefully have that license by the end of the year. And then I think the next license after that is going to be the so-called Tier 1 licenses. I don't know, SISIC or ASIC. And I
How
see
come?
I see a
What's the
reaction.
point?
I think if we're going to come and enter the market with a bit of a loud message along the lines of the industry's become a shit show and we're this credible alternative,
Yeah.
you can't be a credible alternative with a Mauritius license and MT5. You're just like everyone else, right?
Yeah.
So I think we need to kind of we claim credibility, but then we need to show that we are credible.
Yeah.
So Mauritius to start, and lots of good things to say about Mauritius and our experience there. Then the Dubai license, and then probably SISIC or ASIC.
But do you think actually people care about that today, right? Because if you look at like just based on what you've said, right? You have PCMs who've managed to bring over some of their client book. I recently spoke with someone who set up another broker, and they launched in I think April, and they had some existing contacts and network, and they managed to onboard people. I think they also have Mauritius, right? And my impression is maybe like 5 years ago, a decade ago, then it was really important. Like, oh, you have FCA, you have ASIC, or something like that, and people would really care about that. Whereas today, it just kind of feels like, well, no one cares, right? Because you just can't.
Mm.
Where those licenses are so constrictive that it's almost like, what's the point? And then, well, I actually think this is kind of a negative thing as an aside, which is it's like previously, if you had to say FCA was actually like a marker that you were probably doing something right, but because they've made it so difficult, now everyone's kind of offshore. You can't really distinguish between who's good and bad. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling. I guess the question is like, do you think it actually matters that much for branding? Like, do you see people actually care about that or no?
It's an interesting one because I think a lot of people care or would sort of base their opinion on what broker to join basis the licenses that they have.
Yeah.
And then once you have the conversation with them and you say, look, if you go here, it's 30-1 leverage. No, I don't want that. I want to go offshore. So even the client themselves wants to go offshore for higher leverage or I don't know rebates, what have you. But I think a lot of, and this sort of goes back to the question you asked earlier around clients who want some bespoke solution and commercial flexibility. And I think for us, it's sort of important to understand who is our target audience or target client, I suppose. And if we are after the bigger traders who value credibility and might want some flexibility and so forth, then odds are that client would meet the professional criteria and still get the higher leverage. And so I think for us, especially since we're leaning into this credibility message a fair bit, I do think these licenses are a logical next step.
Yeah.
I guess also alternatively, initially everyone was like, oh, offshore, I don't know, Mauritius, Bahamas, God forbid. And then since so many clients gravitated there because of leverage or what have you, and now they're like, oh, actually, that's right as well. So I think there is a bit of a shift in client perception.
So, like one of the things that I often wonder, and actually I was kind of half jokingly speaking to someone about this the other day, is I think a lot of the time you speak to executives and it's almost like, yeah, the industry will be done in like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And then at the same time, it actually keeps growing and getting bigger. So there's this kind of paradox where it feels like it's becoming harder and harder to do business, but at the same time, it's bigger than ever. And so I guess for like, when you start a company, you must have some long-term vision, like idea of where you want to be. I mean, you don't have to compare yourself directly to another brand, but do you have a kind of goal in mind of like, okay, in 5 years, we would like base markets to be at this point and look like this kind of brand, and when people think of base markets, they think X, Y, Z kind of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because, and to sort of go to the start of your question, I was speaking to someone recently about prediction markets and if they are going to consume our industry and if that's the end of it.
Yeah.
And it kind of made me think that you sort of go through these cycles, when ESMA, whenever it was 2016, announced leverage restrictions and everyone thought, that's it.
Yeah.
And then the crypto boom and everyone thought, that's it. Everyone's going to shift from CFDs to crypto. And now the same is sort of with prediction markets that, the Gen Alpha is not going to want to trade on a MT5. It's all about prediction markets. Yeah. And yet I think the industry kind of survives and keeps going, I suppose. So that's interesting how cyclical this is, and this fear that this industry is done for seems to come up every, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
But I think for us, our long-term plans, first we have to launch base, get our name out there, get some clients, and sort of build up that momentum. I think ideally, and this goes back to one of the earlier conversations that we had around what our target client is. Ideally, I'd love for us to focus on the higher end of the market, those clients that do want some bespoke solutions and that human service rather than a AI chatbot. And I think if we do that right, then there's a real opportunity to sort of expand our offering beyond CFDs. And you hear this often, like every other broker, oh, we're doing a super app and we want all these things.
Yeah.
But I think it just needs to come sort of organically. I think IG did that well with their stockbroking offering. So you trade your CFDs, but if you want to trade shares, not leveraged, you have that here as well. If you want to hold your crypto, you have that there as well. To kind of go beyond this, just CFDs, but into other asset classes. And obviously, since we're backed by a fund, there's that opportunity as well. If you want to invest your money and have the fund manage it, that's also possible. So I guess in a way, what I am describing is a super app, even though I just said, every other broker does it, but kind of in a organic way where it's almost driven by the demand of clients rather than sort of forcing things on them.
Yeah.
And then I think that would sort of give birth to a real nice group structure where there's synergies between these entities, the fund's doing one thing, that the CFD broker the other. And to sort of enable all of that, I think we will have to go down the tier 1 licenses route as well.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the next 5 years for us, I think.
Nice. Actually, last question, because I can see the timer ticking down, but it was on the fund point, I'm always curious, just from, I suppose, nerdiness, what those sorts of people do, because I think in some ways it's almost like a real trader is kind of like a mythical being, because I can see how you can be like a vanilla fund manager, you just invest in stocks, okay, it's not very risky, but if you were literally trading CFDs or swaps or futures, something like that, it's a bit more idiosyncratic. I always just wonder like how that functions. Like, I mean, can you say anything about what they do? And also, like, do you actually have people who come to you and are like, oh, that's pretty cool, we would invest with these guys? Or is it they're kind of siloed and doing their own thing?
Yeah, it's very interesting because when I met them, it's almost as if two polar opposite worlds collided, because they came to me with absolute conviction that their strategy works and that it makes, I believe at that time, near to 10% a month.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, right. I've heard it all before. You go on every broker's website, at the top it says whatever, 78% of clients lose money.
Yeah.
And we kind of, not that we clashed, but we sort of disagreed on this. And I had to convey to them that, I'm not coming from a place of doubt or whatever, but more so cynicism, because I've worked on the other side of it. So when someone comes to you, you naturally react with a degree of skepticism. And what kind of surprised me even more is, like you said, you think of a professional trader, 4 screens at least, Bloomberg and so forth.
Yeah.
Whereas their approach is entirely different. It's algorithm. So you sort of give it the conditions and the parameters and you hit play and it just does its thing. And it works, and they do well. Maybe not the 10% that initially, but they're not far off from it. I'd say probably 7.5% a month. But
that's insane, right?
I've been proven wrong and I've been surprised. But I guess also in that regard, if you remove the human element and emotion out of it, perhaps it's easier to just have the algorithm press play and have it run. And I think we've kind of both of us learned about the strategy a fair bit over the last year or so that we've been working together. But for the fund, they spent the last year getting their infrastructure right, fine-tuning some things, and trading exclusively with their own money. But the fund is also kind of at the cusp of applying for a license, probably by the end of the year. I think they will have a license probably in Dubai as well, maybe in Singapore, to accept external investment. And I think that'd be a great addition to our kind of financial group, to have base markets and the fund and sort of working together side by side. So no external investments at this stage, but hopefully by the end of the year.
Nice. Cool. Well, I can see, the time is ticking down, so we're almost out of time. So Alex, thanks very much for doing this, and thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.